Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Monday, May 12th. This is episode 195. I'm Matt Roy. It's Chuck Miketinac, Don Harris on tap. We got a lot going on. What's up, guys?
What's up with you, Matt?
Happy Monday, Matthew.
Hello. How was the weekend?
Good.
Good?
Yep, outstanding. Mother's Day, very eventful, very nice, and then a long day of work.
That's fair enough.
Yes.
Got to see the grandbaby. It's always good.
Yeah.
It's fun times.
So
That's my life now.
I'm gonna. Do you want to ask your question that you just asked beforehand, Bob? Because I think that's an interesting question. When do you stop buying your kids' Mother's Day gifts?
How old do my kids got to be before I stop buying the Mother's Day gifts for my wife from them?
15.
As soon as they start making their own money, right?
No, I
don't
mean, I
know.
think,
That'd be nice. 15.
I think at 15 they can say their allowance to get, like a $10 flower arrangement or something small.
Or a card.
I think I'm with Javi on this one, which is it never stops.
That's been my experience.
Yeah, mine too. So
When I was 16, I started buying all my own gifts for everybody. But I was working, so I had some money to spend. So I started buying gifts for everybody.
I have a child like that too that still does that. So
Yeah.
that's good. That's
my mom,
good natured.
My mom or dad has not bought a gift from me, from me to someone else in a long time.
Yeah. See, I think my wife was not used to getting big Mother's Day gifts, so it was the thought. So whether that was a handmade craft when they were in elementary school, or when they saved some allowance money for like a small HEB, like the kids would have me take them to HEB to get a flower arrangement, that they could afford. But they usually did it with their own money. Maybe I helped, but no, not now.
So not 31.
31 still going.
And engaged now, right?
That's the middle one. That's
okay.
that's Princess Kennedy, but yeah.
So her too?
And the youngest one.
What I think we're learning is that Bob is a sap, and he's a pushover.
yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
pushover.
It's got girls.
100%. Whatever they want.
That's just girl. That's just girl dad.
Yeah,
right
it's
there.
girl dad. I got boys, and they get their own stuff.
We got Javi. Do you have a daughter?
I have a 30-year-old daughter.
So we got one boy dad and 3 girl dads in here. So, and then a no dad, a dog dad over here. So he doesn't buy crap for himself. So anyway,
My friend, all in good time.
weekend was good.
You guys are due.
You guys haven't noticed. Don't say that. You guys, no one said anything. I shaved this weekend for the first time in 2 months.
Look at you.
You told me to shave right before we left on Friday.
I didn't
I
realize
think.
I had that kind of power.
You didn't. It was getting itchy, but no,
when I do it.
finally
That's the same thing.
clean shaven.
It looks
this week.
good.
So yeah,
Makes you look even more youthful.
I was
Did you
shaving
do a
yesterday.
stage
So
thing? Did
my
you
dad.
cut some of it off and leave the?
Oh yeah, I did mutton chops once. I had a goatee there for a second. Jordan was like, "Please God, no." But my dad has had a mustache for my entire life, basically since he could grow a mustache. He's had a mustache, so I shaved everything except for the mustache and then FaceTime my family, and they were like, "Please God, no, get rid of it now. We don't need Ron Part 2."
I don't remember seeing Don ever with any. You, never.
I can grow a full mustache and beard in 2 days.
Really?
I don't remember ever seeing you.
No, I've never had it.
Chuck, have you ever gone full beard? I mean,
Yeah,
you've had the
vacation.
goatee for a long time.
I have, but now at my old age, when I do this, I look like the Gorton's fisherman when I just grow a beard. So
I feel like
all
when-
I'm missing is the raincoat and the hat.
I feel like when Chuck retires, he's going to end up like David Letterman, just letting it all hang out.
No, I won't let it get that nasty.
I can't. I get too itchy. I can grow it so fast. And I think when I was in college, I went on a ski trip, and I grew one. But that pretty much it. Julie won't let me.
Just
I go
like it.
one day, and she goes, "No, go shave."
Yeah. See, I liked it. If mine grew in, mine just doesn't grow in full enough. Like it didn't grow in much on my chin, and then there was a few little patchy spots underneath. It's just like it doesn't grow in full enough for me to put forth the upkeep and the effort to keep
Yeah.
it. So, anyway, we got a lot going on. Not Mother's Day or what?
Upkeep. That's the whole
Yeah.
reason I grow a beard. Is
To trim it, and my
the whole beard experience for me is about laziness.
well, yeah, but my skin gets really, really dry and irritated, so I have to like put.
Needs to moisturize.
I have to moisturize it, and so I was like, I don't want to do that. So anyway, here we are,
Exfoliate.
baby faced and all. I have something
so
else to
many
say.
products.
I have something else to say, but I'm not going to. We got the NBA draft lottery tonight. So the Spurs have 2 lottery selections. They have a 6.7% chance to get the number 1 pick if you combine the chance they have at 14 and at 8. So we'll talk all about that, what the Spurs' chances are of getting the number 1 pick and repeating history for the 4th time in Spurs franchise history. History. I was trying to think of another word, but I couldn't think of one. And what players could they be
Archives.
targeting with their 2 lottery picks? Plus, Brian Windhorst making some headlines today about the future of Giannis Antetokounmpo and probably maybe not going to San Antonio, or maybe San Antonio wants to put forth some of their assets to get Giannis. We'll talk about that. And the Cowboys, they're going to be on Thursday Night Football. A little bit of schedule release action this week before the main schedule gets released on Wednesday. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But we do start with the NBA draft lottery. So, like I said, the Spurs have a 6.7% chance to get the number 1 pick. Javi, you want to throw up that graphic for me? This is what the odds are for everybody. The Jazz, Wizards, and Hornets all have a 14% chance to get the number 1 pick. If you remember correctly, that's what the Spurs had 2 years ago when they drafted Victor Wembanyama and got the number 1 pick on lottery night. Spurs have a 6% chance with their 8th selection, a 0.7% chance with the 14 slot, which is what one of the picks that they got in the DeJounte Murray Atlanta Hawks trade. That's one of the first picks that we're actually going to be seeing used from that trade. The next 2 years we have some as well. So, guys, are you excited about the lottery tonight? I mean,
Always.
at this point, the Spurs fans look forward to the lottery because there's no playoffs around. So
It's fun. It's the 6% 8 slot that they're in tonight is exactly the spot that the Pelicans were in when they got Zion Williamson. So it can happen. It's very rare. Most lotteries go true to form in the majority of the picks. In other words,
at least through the beginning.
Atlanta jumped up last year, but most of the teams, like the Jazz, wherever you're slotted, the Spurs should mathematically pick 7, 8, 9.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
And 13, 14. That's the way it should happen. But it does happen. And it has happened. Tim Duncan, we have a 21% chance. Wemby's 14% chance, but that was one of the better, like you said, top 3 teams had a chance.
There wasn't a lottery in '88 when they got Robinson, right?
Lottery.
There wasn't a lottery.
No,
back
it
in
was
the
an
80s?
envelope draw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't alive then, so I don't remember.
It was 10 or 12 giant envelopes in a giant drum. And Patrick Ewing in the Knicks' envelope was frozen, and so David Stern picked the cold one to give it to the Knicks, remember?
Was that the frozen envelope?
That was the conspiracy theory, is they wanted New York to get Patrick Ewing in the very first ever lottery in 85.
Gotcha. I mean, it's
I don't believe it, but that's what they say.
I mean, it's exciting, but it's always like a little bit bittersweet when you're hoping for good things in a lottery, right, Chuck? Like,
Yeah, I wouldn't characterize it for me as exciting, but I'm curious. I mean, I'm thinking like everybody else. I'd like to see where they ultimately end up tonight. But yeah, we've done this so many years in a row, and here we are again. So there's some of that. And then, just harken back to last year too. Everybody was excited. They had 2 picks in the top 8, right? And they felt like by number 8 wasn't even worth using, so they traded out for for future consideration. So again, I'll just go with I'm more curious than I am excited.
This draft much different than last year's, though. Obviously, the number 1 pick, whoever gets it, is going to be Cooper Flagg. I mean, unless he breaks his leg or something, he can't play basketball anymore. He's going to be the number 1 pick. Tell me a little bit. I know you're a Duke fan and follow this more closely than I do, Don. So tell everyone, if they don't know who he is, about Cooper Flagg and why he's going to be the number 1 pick for whoever gets it.
Cooper Flagg is a super athletic 6'9" forward who can create his own shot, shoot from the outside, is a great facilitator. He was the college player of the year last year as a 17, then 18-year-old freshman. Should have been his senior year of high school, but he reclassified up to come out early and go to Duke. It was the player of the year. Before he ever played at Duke, he played in the Team USA summer camp with LeBron and Steph and all those guys as they were preparing for the Olympics. And when he got his chance to get in on the run, he called 3 plays in a row. He waved off his screener and called up a different screener so that he get the switch on LeBron. He wanted LeBron, and he abused LeBron on 3 consecutive plays, which he was the talk of this. Everybody knew he wasn't going to make the Team USA. He was on the select team. But at that moment, they said, oh, my goodness, this kid not only has talent, but he's got the moxie to want LeBron to guard him. He's a fantastic player. He's not generational like Wemby as far as upside, but he'll be a 10-time All-Star.
Every so often you have these drafts where there's that number 1 player and then like 50 feet of crap and then the rest of the prospects. This isn't like that. Like Wemby was unequivocally the number 1 pick, but this draft is so much deeper than Wemby's draft was. It's so much deeper than last year's too. You brought up the trade of Rob Dillingham last year at the 8th slot. That's because at 8 you weren't getting a top tier player like you will be in this draft.
Allegedly.
If you get Con Knippel, or if you get let's just say Jaspers Yakochonis out of Illinois, like those 8 picks, those picks at 8 will be better than Rob Dillingham was last year at 8.
You should have 15 guys. The top 15 guys in this draft will be NBA starters, most of it in their rookie year.
How does getting the number 1 pick, I mean, I think we look at the Spurs right now as a team on the rise that should be competing for the playoff spot next year. How does getting the number 1 pick or even a top 4 pick this year kind of change the trajectory of this team, Chuck?
Well, that's a really good question. I don't really know how to answer that properly. I mean, because it's just all spitballing at this point, but you got to believe it would help, right? Obviously, that if you can add a top-tier talent, you're drafting this high, it's got to help some, but is it enough at this point to completely flip the script? That's, I guess, remains to be seen. You probably need more than one guy at this point.
Look what a big difference Steph Castle made, right? The way we're talking about the Spurs' future now that he's part of a new big 3 compared to before they got him. Look, if they get Cooper Flag, it's that changes everything, but I don't think they will.
City's shutting down tomorrow if they do.
But if
and rightfully so. Yeah.
I think if they get top 4, it could change things in a different way. I think it could change things in a way that they may decide to make a move with some of these assets to maybe change their thinking, right? Like Chuck and I both we agree that we don't think they're going to sell off all these assets for Giannis, right?
I think it depends, right? If you end up at 8 and 14, then maybe do you consider it? I mean, you got to pay somebody. I know the window, we've discussed this many times, right? Doesn't really match, right? Giannis is a 30-year-old. Does it really match long term? In the short term, though, I mean, if you're only going to end up with 8 and 14 in this draft, then maybe does Giannis become more on the radar than we think he is as we sit here today?
Well, here's my question when it comes to acquiring these young players. If you have 8 and 14, at some point, I think fans begin to get a little over it when you're just drafting and developing young talent. Like, is another Jeremy Sohan type player going to take this team to the next level? Is another Devin Vassell type player going to take this team to the next level? You have all these guys and these dudes that you've drafted over the last 7 years that have gotten you to a 22 and 60 record 2 years ago, 22 and 60 record last year, and a 36 and whatever it was, 46 record this year. At some point, you have to use these assets in a way to change things up. If you get the number 1 pick, obviously you're going to pick Cooper Flag and just be like, cool, awesome. Let's put that on the team and let's go run this thing back. But if you get a 2 and a 10, or if you get 4 and 13, do you do something with those assets that's not acquiring young players, but it is acquiring older players?
I don't know, because you look at the team that's probably going to win the championship this year, and they went 20, 22, 47, and then boom, 2 years.
I'm assuming you're saying
60.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and they
might not make it out of the series with Denver. So
okay, I think they will, but it's okay. Whether they do or whether they don't, they've got the MVP, And then they've got Jalen Williams was a top 10, a 12 pick. Cason Wallace is really effective for them. Chet Holmgren. They've done it like the way the Spurs are doing it. They just happen to get better players, right? So the Spurs could have had Jalen Williams, and they missed. And they took Sohan instead.
Mm-hmm.
And the Spurs could have had Alfred Şengün in Houston, and they missed. They took Primo. And so you can do it through the draft with
You have to hit on your
the
players,
right
though.
young pick. And now that they've got Castle and Fox and Wemby, I think they can make a significant – I think they can win 50 games next year, depending on what they do with the rest of their roster. You have to do what Oklahoma City did, go get a Hartenstein or somebody like that. But it doesn't have to be Giannis. It can be just a really good Hartenstein.
You have to have those players to put around the guys. What I'm asking is a core of De'Aaron Fox, Wemby, Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell good enough to win a championship?
No.
Okay. Well, then you have to take these picks that you have from Atlanta.
Not immediately.
Well, okay. If I was to say, does that core, without adding another big name, in the next 5 years win you a championship?
Maybe in 5 years, depending on how Wemby and Castle
that's
grow.
the point, is if it's not going to win you a championship, then what are we doing? So you have to take some of these assets, and you can't have 17 second-round picks
Right.
and 11 more first-round picks on your roster. It's just not going to happen.
I think the question
you have
is,
to use some of them.
when do you make that move, right? Are they in a position right now? Like, if you think you've got a very competitive roster and you're ready to make that uber leap into the top echelon of teams where you're giving yourself a chance to win, that's when you start adding some of these other guys that you can maybe bring in. And, when you're talking about free agency, is that time now? I mean, I don't know that it is. So, if you bring Giannis in, what is that going to get you? Is it going to make you a 40-win team? Is it going to make you a 50-win team? Is it going to make you a championship caliber team? There's no way of answering that, but my instincts tell me that even adding Giannis doesn't necessarily put you in a position to win a championship. So I don't know that the move at this particular moment is to go out and start talking about adding one of these super studs.
Javi, since we're already talking about Giannis, let's switch over to the next super and play Windy here. So this morning on Get Up, Brian Windhorst, ESPN's Get Up with an exclamation point, which I made sure to put into the courtesy. Brian Windhorst said this.
Number one, the Bucks do not control their first-round pick for 5 years. That means if the Bucks are going to trade him, thinking that they're going to tank for the next 3 years and rebuild is not going to happen. They need quality players. And the other thing that you need to know is if you're going to trade Giannis to a team that's going to be a super team, getting that team's draft assets is not exciting because they're not going to be very high picks for the next few years. So you're going to look at teams that have players to trade and other teams' draft assets that they can trade besides theirs. San Antonio and Houston. San Antonio and Houston. San Antonio and Houston. Pay attention there.
Said it pretty strongly.
He did?
I think it's San Antonio and Houston. I could see why Spurs fans look at Giannis and say, awesome. Let's add him next to Wemby. Personally, I don't think it's a great fit. And I think I would rather have, contrary to what I just said about using these picks on young players, I think I'd rather have a VJ Edgecombe if you get a top 4 pick, or a Con Knipple, or Jaspers Jakučionis, or like one of these younger players that can help you on the 3-point line, than a Giannis who's going to just clog up the middle even more when Wemby needs more room to operate as is.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of difference between these young guys and Giannis. I think Giannis makes you an immediate contender.
Does he match up with the timeline, though? Because
he doesn't.
Because we hear we're not going to skip steps.
No, and that's why I don't think they're going to do it. I fully expect the Spurs to, depending on where these guys are, to stay the course. Now, if something presents itself, like De'Aaron Fox did, they will make that move. But I don't expect them to – I don't think they're excited about the potential of Giannis because of what they would have to give up. They would have to give up a ton to get Giannis.
Let me ask you this. if the Spurs traded for Giannis, and this was the deal, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes for salary reasons, Keldon Johnson, maybe even Jeremy, and let's say the higher of the 2 picks this year, the Atlanta pick in 27 and the Spurs pick in 29, and then 2 pick swaps in 26 and 28. Is that too much? That's basically 5 first-round picks and all of your young talent, except for Steph Castle and Wemby.
I think you would find people that would be on both sides of that. You know, you'd have people say, no, that's way too much, and you'd also have people say, do it.
I mean, he's 31 years old now?
30.
He's 30. He's going to be really good for at least the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it definitely doesn't match up with the timeline. Like, I do know that. I just don't know if that's a move that they would be willing to make. Because is there a risk that it thwarts some of the growth from Steph Castle and from Wemby?
Maybe. It all depends on how the polling is going for Project Marvel this year.
Oh, God.
Does Giannis change the polling for Project Marvel? Seriously.
What's the press conference today about?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah, the timeline doesn't match, and I don't know that I would jettison that many of this roster, and then because then you have to think, well, does then Giannis coming here make you win even that many more games next year based on who you just got rid of that learned how to play together and all the other things that went along with playing together this year? It just doesn't make a lot of sense in a lot of ways.
And there's a lot of
they're spitballing the Rockets too. I mean, like, does it make a lot of sense for them? I mean, that looks to me a young, up-and-coming team, draft and develop team. They're right there. Does he even make sense going to Houston? Again, you keep seeing all these things, right? Giannis wants to go to a state where there's no state income tax. Like, I bet he does. They all do, right? I mean, ultimately, you want more dollars in your own pocket. But it just doesn't feel like this is super authentic at this point.
And I think the Spurs have been, if you look at them and you listen to what Brian's told us for 3 years now.
Brian Wright, not Brian Windhorst.
Yeah, the model is Oklahoma City's model. I just don't know if their young players are as good as Oklahoma City's young players.
And I think that's fair to think. I mean, Williams is nowhere near Sohan is nowhere near as good as Williams. Devin Vassell is comparable to Williams, but I don't think he's as good.
He's never made an all-star team.
Yeah, I mean,
and never will.
Then that also begs the question: when do you start cutting bait on some of these young guys? Like you have to start
this offseason.
You have to start evaluating these guys with a very finely toothed comb if you're going to keep picking a VJ Edgecombe or that's just one of the names that Jeremiah Fears, Jace Richardson, Kamon Malawak, like any of these guys, Ace Bailey, any of these guys in the top 10, if you're going to keep picking in the top 10 every year, you have to start getting rid of the guys that are making you pick in the top 10 every year.
Right. And these guys are going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
And what have I been saying for 3 years now? Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Sohan, they've got a glut at this wing.
Lengthy wings.
Right. And so I think they should do it again this offseason. I think they should consider moving Vassell, who's a very good player, for equal talent at a different position.
The only way I think whatever happens tonight, the only way I think they keep both picks is if they get a 4 and 10. And they are able to draft like a Con Knipple and a Malawak. That gives you your center, which can take some heat off of Wemby and let him go outside, and that gives you your 3-point shooting. That's the only way I think they draft 2 players and keep both players.
I like both those guys.
Plus, they're both dookies.
So I said I like them.
I know you do.
I don't like Edgecombe.
I like Edgecombe a lot, but
he can't shoot it.
He can try. Neither could Stephon Castle.
Yeah,
true. He's bouncy. He can jump out of the gym.
I mean, there's a lot of really good players.
There's a lot of upside for a lot of these guys based on their age.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey out of Rutgers. Trey Johnson out of Texas is phenomenal. Jeremiah Fears was the only reason that Oklahoma made the tournament, basically. I mean,
he's really good.
Jace Richardson is incredible. I mean, all these guys are very, very good. How are they going to be on the next level? Obviously, none of us know that, but I do know that tonight is going to have all eyes from San Antonio on ESPN
For sure.
at 6 o'clock. Excuse me. All right, let's get to the Cowboys here. So the NFL announced the first game of the season today. NBC's voice of Sunday Night Football, Mike Tirico, went on the Today Show this morning, announced the first game of the NFL season will be, and it's very important to Texas.
All right, then I'll tell you.
Tell me.
It's the Dallas Cowboys.
Let's go!
We will start the season on September 4th in Philadelphia with one of the great rivalries. It's been a quarter century since the Cowboys, the Eagles, have played week one.
Oh.
Dallas, new coach in Brian Schottenheimer, Dak Prescott back against Jalen Hurts, 2,000-yard rusher Saquon Barkley, and the Philadelphia Eagles. What a way to start what begins the 20th year of Sunday Night Football.
It's very, very interesting that they chose the Cowboys because usually you have the Eagles and the Cowboys playing twice from the last 6 weeks of the season, not to start the season off. So I thought that was a really interesting pick. When they had, I mean, the Lions are going to be on the Eagles' schedule this year. You could have chosen the Commanders to put Jaden Daniels in prime time. No, they choose at the tried and true method of putting the Dallas Cowboys on primetime football to just get some eyeballs to open the season.
Nobody brings people to the TV like the Dallas Cowboys.
Even coming off the year that they came off of, I mean, this is more proof, if anybody needs any more, that they're still the biggest brand in sports TV history.
Yep.
The line is already out for that game.
Really?
Anybody want to guess what it is?
Eagles
Even though I said-
minus 5.5.
Wrong.
Eagles -8.
It's right in between those two. They're at 7. I think it opened at 6.5. It's already a 7. So are the Eagles a touchdown better than the Cowboys are?
I don't think so. Ask Dak Prescott and his career record against the Eagles. 9-4.
Yeah.
So I would take the Cowboys as we sit here today.
I mean, we'll get the full schedule on Wednesday, and we'll break all that down on Thursday on Sneakers and Cleats podcast right here at 1 o'clock. But I think the Cowboys might surprise a lot of people this year. I believe in them more this year than I did last year.
I believe
for
in them more than I did a month ago. I think what they've done with their roster is commendable compared to what I thought they were going to do after last year's offseason of nothing. I think what they've done this offseason has made them a much better team.
That game being the first week.
I won't pick them to win 7 games this year.
He'll pick them to win 8. That game being the first game of the season, though, is kind of the tone setter for the Cowboys for the entire season, too. Because if you lose to the Eagles week 1, then you're basically 0-2, not 0-1 because it's a divisional game at that point. And obviously there's no I think there hasn't been a repeat champion in the NFC East for like the last 15 years. So that's going to be, okay, is the Cowboys or the Commanders going to be the next NFC East champions? And we'll get a very good litmus test on that opening Thursday night.
Well, they opened up against the Giants for like 100 years in a row.
Yeah, and they kicked the crap out of them every
year.
And they
opened against Tampa, remember? And they played, I think it was Tampa, were coming off their Super Bowl championship, and they lost that game, and then I think it ended up winning 12 or 13 games that year.
No,
so.
Eli used to kill the Cowboys on opening night.
I mean, they haven't won against the Cowboys very much in the last like 7 years.
Correct.
So,
correct.
I mean,
I'm going way back.
Dak against the Giants is like surefire. Just bet on the Cowboys.
Dak against the division is pretty darn good. Hence why most years they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that on Thursday. The entire NFL schedule comes out on Wednesday afternoon. There is a couple of games that come out today, though. Fox and Amazon, I think, are announcing a game today. What was it? CBS tomorrow, and CBS and Amazon, I think, announce another game tomorrow, and then Netflix announces their games in the international games on Wednesday before the huge announcement on.
God, who doesn't have games now?
Yep.
I don't know. Who else? Hulu? Does Hulu have games?
Amazon, Netflix.
Perhaps.
Oh, ESPN announces the game tomorrow as well. Yeah, Roku. Anyway, Bob, anything before we get out of here?
Hanover Fist wanted to say Happy Monday to the
Hanover
crew.
Fist.
Hanover Fist.
That's he's always in there. And there's some comments, if you go back and watch the stream, a lot of comments about Giannis and the Spurs.
I mean, it's a talker. People want to see him here. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Does he want to come here?
Why wouldn't he?
Why wouldn't he?
That could, isn't that kind of like a Fox situation? Want to come here, get a little cheaper?
We'll get him some churros. Well, Fox had other reasons that he wanted to come here. His wife is from here, and all that good stuff. Plus, he was from Houston, just 2.5 hours away. It's not like Giannis wants to be traded to Greece. So it's not like he's going back home.
Hey, does somebody here know Thelma Mason? Because she said, "Good morning, sweetheart."
No.
We're not talking. If they do, we're not saying.
On that note, Jordan, I don't know her.
Thelma.
Thelma. Where's Louise?
Oh,
I was thinking Scooby Doo.
That's Velma.
Oh, Velma. My bad.
Come on.
My bad.
That's a bot. I get those on Facebook.
I'm just
Good
glad.
morning.
I'm glad you know what a bot is.
You get that. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you have a minute?
Are you the Prince of Malaysia asking for your bank account information? So
can I ask you what your
Val
favorite
from
soccer
France.
team is?
Val from France also said hello to everyone.
what's going on?
Bonjour.
Comment allez-vous?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
All right, that's all we got for you on Sneakers and Cleats podcast today. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We'll be back on Thursday. Lottery recap. Hopefully, we got Cooper Flag. If we do get Cooper Flag, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of crap going on tomorrow in San Antonio. People are going to be honking all over the place. They're going to be honking all over the streets tomorrow.
Can you imagine?
I actually can't imagine.
I
You got a
can't
6.7% chance. But
If Cooper Flag goes to the Spurs tonight, construction begins on the new arena tomorrow.
stakes in the ground. Bombs are going off around the Institute of Texan Culture to get that thing on the ground immediately. We'll have a whole breakdown of the Cowboys and Texans schedule on Thursday as well. We'll see them.